Okay, good morning, all of you. Welcome back to Laksha Academy YouTube channel. Okay, congratulations to all the students. Okay, you have successfully passed our intermediate exams. Okay, first year students as well as second year students. Now the second year students, okay, they have to focus on NEET exam, and first year students they have to concentrate on second year as well as NEET. Okay, second year students from here onwards. Okay, you have to enhance your preparation. Your results are out. Okay, you have to change your preparation strategies, and I hope you will do better in NEET exam also, like in IP exams. Okay, next one, digestion absorption part 17. Okay, in this part we are going to learn okay, assimilation, digestion, and gastrointestinal hormones. Okay, these are the things that we are going to learn here. Okay, this is a small slide on our success. Okay, I wish good luck for your okay future success also. And once again, I congratulate each and every student of first year and second year. Okay, few things here: assimilation, digestion, and gastrointestinal hormones. Okay, these are the topics that will be covered in this part 17. Let us start. What is meant by assimilation? Okay, in the previous video, we learned what is absorption, how different substances like glucose, galactose, fructose, amino acids, how these all substances are absorbed. We learned those things in the previous part. Okay, here our focus is on assimilation. Okay, we already learned glucose is absorbed, fructose, galactose, amino acids, fatty acids, glycerol, vitamin B12, and water. These all are absorbed into the blood. Okay, fatty acids are first absorbed into the lymph. Finally, they too. Okay, they come to blood. Okay, what happens to these absorbed substances? These absorbed substances finally through the blood they go to the tissues, and in the inside what tissue is made up of cells, and they become an integral part of the cell's protoplasm. That is absorption. Sorry, that is assimilation. The absorbed substances finally reach the tissues where food materials become integral components. Food materials become integral components. One second. The observed substances finally reach, where do they reach? Finally, they reach the tissues where the food metals become integral components of the protoplasm, living plasm. That means they become part of our protoplasm. For example, our cells, the living cells are there in our body. There are some dead cells also. Okay, living cells require energy. For that energy, they require food materials, glucose. Okay, the absorbed food substances finally they go to the cell and they become the part of the protoplasm. That process is called as assimilation. And here, okay, these once the food materials are assimilated, when they become the part of the protoplasm, and then cell use them for production of energy, for growth, and for repair. Okay, our body can repair itself. Okay, when small injuries occur, okay, our body can repair itself, and our body cells grow as well as our body grow, and for production of energy. Okay, for these purposes our absorbed substances, assimilated substances are used. Okay, here you can observe there is a 2 marks question IP point of view. Okay, what differences between absorption and assimilation? The process by which end products of the digestion pass through the intestinal mucosa into blood or lymph. I told you this point in the previous part 16. The process by which absorbed substances they reach the tissues where the food materials become integral components of the living protoplasm, that is assimilation. Okay, digestive foods like glucose, fructose, galactose, amino acids, fatty acids, glycerol are absorbed by passive, active, and facilitated transport. I have explained this point too in the previous video. Okay, assimilated food is used for production of energy, growth, and repair. That is the difference between absorption and assimilation. It is a 2 marks question, very important one. Okay, next one, what is meant by defecation or egestion? The undigested food. Okay, what happens to we learned already how for different glucose fructose these all are absorbed. What happens to the unabsorbed substances? The undigested, unabsorbed, for example, we cannot digest some of the food. Okay, some of the components of the food that we eat. For example, cellulose is there. We cannot digest the cellulose, but it is very important. It adds weight to our body. It helps in the slow and smooth movement of the food. Well, the slow and smooth movement of food helps in complete absorption. Okay, the undigested and unabsorbed substances are passed on to the next part. What is that? Large intestine. Absorption takes place in the absorption. Most of the absorption takes place in the small intestine. Now the food from there it moves on to the next part. Okay, next, what is that part? Large intestine. Now the food is in large intestine. You know the large intestine has three parts: cecum, colon, and rectum. Okay, no significant digestive activity. No significant digestive activity occurs in large intestine. That means no digestion takes place in. Okay, large intestine has no role in the process of digestion. Okay, what are the then what does it do? What are the functions of the large intestine? Okay, one is absorption of some water, absorption of mineral, absorption of certain drugs. Okay, takes place in large intestine. Next one, secretion of mucus. Large amount of mucus is secreted in the large intestine, and this mucus help in holding the undigested particles together. For example, these are some undigested food particles. Okay, these undigested food particles are held together. The undigested food particles are held together by what is that? Mucus. Next one, and it also helps in lubrication, easy passage. Mucus also helps in easy passage of undigested food. Mucus also help in holding the undigested particles together. Okay, these are the functions of large intestine. What one, it helps in absorption of water, minerals, and certain drugs. Okay, we learned this point in the previous video. And secretion of mucus. Large amount of mucus is produced in large intestine. The mucus is doing two things here. One, it is holding the particles together, and second one, it is helping in easy passage of the food. Next, the undigested and absorbed substances mostly include what are present in the undigested and absorbed substances. It mostly includes plant material, generally called roughage fiber, and which is the undigested and unabsorbed substances enter the large intestine. Okay, that undigested food mainly consists of fiber of the plant material. What we call generally that fiber is called roughage. And water and some useful substances are reabsorbed in the large intestine. Next, it is temporarily stored. The undigested food is temporarily stored in the rectum till it is expelled out of the body through the anus. That is called defecation. Okay, the undigested food is temporarily stored in the rectum till it is expelled out of the body. Okay, through the anus. The undigested waste solidified into feces, and in the rectum the undigested waste is solidified into feces in the rectum. What is the rectum? Rectum is one of the part you learnt in the frog as well. You learnt in cockroach as well. You also learnt rectum in earthworm as well. In earthworm, post typhlosolar region of the earthworm is called as rectum. In frog also you learned rectum. And next another one in cockroach. In cockroach too, before anus there is a rectum. There are rectal papillae, okay, which help in absorption, reabsorption of water. Okay, here in our rectum, okay, the undigested food till it is expelled out through anus. The undigested waste solidified into feces in the rectum, and when it is stored there in the rectum, and it initiate a neural reflex. Okay, every day we get a neural reflex which cause urge for the removal, a desire. You get the when this neural reflex is initiated, you get the desire, okay, to eliminate fecal matter from your body. Okay, the ejection of feces to the outside through the anal opening is a voluntary process in a newly born baby. In a newly born baby, okay, this ejection is not a voluntary process. Okay, but in other people, it is a voluntary process. Okay, you learned earlier the anus. There are two sphincters are there: internal anal sphincter and external anal sphincter. Internal anal sphincter is made up of smooth muscles. It is involuntary, whereas external anal sphincter is made up of striped muscles and it is voluntary. Ejection of feces to the outside through the anal opening is a voluntary process, and it is carried out by mass peristaltic movement, forcible peristaltic movement that expels the contents of the large intestine outside the body. That process is called ejection. E means something going out. Okay, expiration. In expiration, okay, what is going out? Air is going out. In ejection, undigested food is going out. In excretion, okay, different substances, carbon dioxide, nitrogenous waste, they and other substances, there are many substances going outside during excretion. E, there too, first letter is E. E means it is going out. Okay, next one, gastrointestine. This is the third part. Okay, first we learned what is meant by assimilation, differences between absorption and assimilation. Then we learned what is defecation or ejection, and this is the third part, gastrointestinal hormones. Okay, our alimentary canal has different parts like buccal cavity, mouth, buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. There are different parts are there. The activities of gastrointestinal tract, the activities of the gastrointestinal tract are under neural and hormonal control for proper coordination of different parts. For example, if you take a cricket team or football team, okay, you are well aware of cricket. Like, if you take a cricket team, there are 11 players are there. Okay, to control these 11 players, among these 11 players, there is one captain. Okay, the captain controls the activities of all remaining 10 players. Why? Okay, for better coordination. If there is no there is no captain in the cricket team, all players they do their own business and they do their own things. Okay, then ultimately the team would be the loser. Okay, that means what I would like to say here. Okay, among a cricket team, among the members of coordination, that coordination is brought by captain and vice captain are there. They bring coordination among the players. Like that, imagine our gastrointestinal tract is one cricket team. Okay, like in a cricket team there are some players. Okay, our gastrointestinal also has some players like mouth, buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach. Like that, there are different players. Among these players, okay, coordination has to be brought. Who is bringing that coordination among different parts of the digestive system, digestive tract, elementary canal? Okay, there are two systems are there. One is a neural system, the another one is endocrine system. Okay, these systems bringing coordination here among different part. Okay, why? Okay, first, for an activity, of successfully, our gastrointestinal tract can perform its function if there is proper coordination. Otherwise, digestion here the target is to complete the digestion. Okay, the target of the team is ultimately to win the game. Okay, if there is no coordination among the players, the team would be the loser. If there is no coordination among different parts like stomach, esophagus, if there is no coordination among these parts, okay, there would be no digestion. Okay, activities of the gastrointestinal tract are under neural and hormonal control. Okay, the activities of GIT or gastrointestinal tract is also called gut or alimentary canal in simple term. Okay, the activities of the gastrointestinal tract are under neural and hormonal control. Why? For proper coordination of different parts. Okay, next one, next point. The smell, you are aware of this point. The smell of the sight of the food or smell of a food or presence of food in the oral cavity can stimulate the secretions of saliva. When you see a mango or the biryani or something that you like very much, okay, when you smell it, when you see it, when it is present in your mouth, your more saliva is produced by your salivary glands, which are located outside the buccal cavity, and their secretions are released into the buccal cavity. You know, in our body, every day nearly okay, 1 to 1.5 liters of saliva is produced in our body by our salivary glands. We are diurnal animals. As we are diurnal animals, okay, most of the saliva is produced during the daytime. In nocturnal animals, most of the saliva is produced during the okay, night time. Okay, like okay, here, okay, when you see some food item, when you smell it, when it is present in your food, more saliva is produced. And gastric and intestinal secretions are controlled, are also stimulated by the neural signals. Okay, to release the intestinal juice, intestinal secretions, to release gastric secretions, okay, there must be okay neural signals. Okay, these secretions are stimulated by the neural signals. And next, muscular activities. The muscular activities of different parts of the alimentary canal are moderated by neural mechanisms. We learned earlier peristalsis. Peristalsis in the alimentary canal. In stomach peristalsis, in esophagus peristalsis, in small intestine peristalsis, in large intestine. Okay, peristalsis begins in esophagus. Peristalsis continues up to rectum. The muscular activities of different parts of the alimentary canal are moderated by neural mechanisms. I told you in previous parts that between the longitudinal muscles and circular muscles there is a plexus, myenteric plexus, which controls the peristalsis. That is a part of nervous system. That is a part of enteric nervous system, which is our second brain, not small brain. I'm telling here, it is our second brain. What is our second brain? Our second brain is in the here. Our second brain is here in this part. Okay, that means our second brain is present in the gastrointestinal tract. Okay, in the gastrointestinal tract, what is our second brain? The second brain is enteric nervous system, ENS. Okay, local hormones. Okay, what are the different? Let us study a list of local. Very very important. These hormones you would be learning about these hormones. The next in the another topic called control and chemical control and coordination. Okay, next hormones control. Hormonal control of secretions of digestive juices is carried out by hormones. Hormonal control of secretions of digestive juices. We learned 5 digestive juices earlier. One is salivary juice, gastric juice, intestinal juice, pancreatic juice, and another one is okay bile juice. These are the 5 digestive juices. There is a kind of hormonal control over these secretions of digestive juices. Hormonal control of secretions of digestive juices is carried out by who is controlling these secretions of digestive juices? There are some hormones called local hormones. What are these local hormones? The hormones which are secreted and they are secreted in some part and they also act in the same part. Such hormones are local. For example, Okay, if you take a TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which is secreted by the pituitary gland, but it is acting here on the thyroid. It is not a local hormone. It is secreted in one part and it is acting on the its site of action in the other part. It is not local. Some hormones which act at the places where they are secreted. Such hormones are called local hormones. What are they? Local hormones. Okay, these last who is secreting these local hormones? Local hormones like gastric mucosa. Okay, you know what is mucosa, innermost of the alimentary canal. They are also secreted by the intestinal mucosa. Gastric mucosa and intestinal mucosa secrete local hormone. There are some cells in the gastric mucosa and intestinal mucosa. They are called enteroendocrine. It was given in previous NEET exam. Enteroendocrine cells. Okay, these entero means the word entero denotes gut. Said which live in the gut. Okay, there are uh, ent, uh, what do we call such those cells which produce this hormone? Okay, these are enteroendocrine cells. The word endocrine means they are secreting hormone. Entero means they are present. There are some cells in the mucosa of the gut and which secrete hormones. Such cells are called enteroendocrine cells. That means they are part of our gut and they are secreting hormones. Let us now learn a list of such local hormones and their site of action and their site of production, where they are secreted and which part they are acting, what is the result of that action. Okay, let us start with the first one, that is gastrin. Gastrin is a peptide hormone which is secreted by the epithelium of the stomach. Okay, in the stomach there is a epithelium, mucosal epithelium. Okay, that mucosal epithelium, okay, gastrin is secreted by the epithelium of the stomach and it stimulates the secretions of HCl hydrochloric acid by parietal cells or oxyntic cells, and it also stimulates the secretion of pepsinogen. Pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is secreted by peptic cells or cells. Okay, observe this point here in this table. Gastrin, it is the name of the hormone. This hormone is secreted by gastrin hormone is secreted by G cells of the pyloric stomach. You learned earlier. I told you this point when I was explaining these two glands, pyloric glands. Okay, G cells of the pyloric stomach, what are they secreting? Gastrin. This gastrin hormone acting on gastric glands in the stomach. Okay, it is producing in the stomach, acting on the cells of the stomach. It is a local hormone. Next, as a result of what happened? Okay, next secretion of hydrochloric acid occurs by the parietal cells or oxyntic cell. Secretion of pepsinogen occurs by the action of chief cells. The chief cells start producing that, and they also increase the motility of the stomach. Movements of the stomach also increase the motility. Okay, the next hormone is enterogastrone hormone or gastric inhibitory peptide, GIP, gastric inhibitory peptide. Okay, it is secreted by the epithelium of duodenum due to the effect of dietary lipids. This hormone is secreted by not the epithelium of stomach. It is secreted by the one of the hormones secreted by the epithelium of the duodenum. There are some more hormone due to the effect of dietary lipids. Next, what is its function? It inhibits gastric acidity and gastrointestinal motility. That means this hormone is acting opposite to its actions are opposite to the gastrin hormone. Observe here, enterogastrone, which is also called as GIP, gastric inhibitory peptide, and it is produced by the duodenum. Now, this hormone is acting on the gastric glands in the stomach. It inhibits the secretion of gastrin. Okay, it inhibits the secretion of gastrin hormone. Secretion is inhibited here. Next hormone is secretin, which is also secreted by the some cells of the duodenum. What are they? S cells. Here G cells, S cell. and its site of action is pancreas. It acts on pancreas and it just stimulate the production of water and bicarbonates by the pancreas. Here we have a 2 marks question on this one. Name two hormones secreted by the duodenal mucosa. Name the two hormones secreted by duodenal mucosa. Cholecystokinin, cholecystokinin, okay, CCK, and secretin, and gastric inhibitory peptide. Secretin I will explain you, and gastric inhibitory peptide or enterogastrone. These are the hormones secreted by the duodenal mucosa or epithelium of mucosa. Okay, next hormone, secretin hormone. Secretin is secreted by the epithelium of the duodenum. It acts on the pancreatic acini and stimulates the secretions of water and bicarbonates of the pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice consists of enzymes as well as it consists of water. It also consists of bicarbonates of the pancreatic juice. Specifically, these two water and bicarbonate secretion is stimulated by the okay, this hormone, what is this? This is the first hormone to be discovered by the scientist, that is secretin hormone. Okay, next one is cholecystokinin and CCK. So this is produced by the CCK cells. It has some other names as well. Cholecystokinin, cholecystokinin. Okay, cholecystokinin you can remember as cholecystokinin. Okay, cholecystokinin or cholecystokinin pancreogemin. It is also called cholecystokinin pancreogemin or pancreogemin. It is secreted from the epithelium of the duodenum. It acts on pancreas as well as the gallbladder and stimulate the secretion of pancreatic enzymes. Sorry. It is acting on pancreatic enzymes. Okay, secretin this hormone, cholecystokinin hormone, it is acting on two things. One is gallbladder. It is also cholecystokinin acting on the pancreas and it stimulates the secretion of pancreatic enzymes. That means this hormone is acting on targeting two parts. One is gallbladder, and gallbladder releases the bile as a result of that. And this hormone is acting on the pancreas, and this pancreas then produces the pancreatic enzymes. Okay, in the previous secretin also we learnt about pancreas. There water and bicarbonates only. Here pancreatic enzymes like trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, procarboxypeptidase. Okay, those are the enzymes. Okay, this hormone I will tell you again: CCK, cholecystokinin, pancreogemin. It is also called and pancreogemin. It has three names. Okay, observe this table here. Cholecystokinin, CCK cells of the duodenum, and it acts on pancreas. It acts on gallbladder. One more point is given here. Okay, it also relaxes the sphincter of Oddi. Sphincter of Oddi is presented as hepatopancreatic ampulla, and hepatopancreatic opening is there that it opens into the lumen of the duodenum. At that point, there is one sphincter. That sphincter has to release, relaxes, okay, to release the bile juice as well as okay, pancreatic juice. Okay, the relaxation of sphincter of Oddi, sphincter of Oddi takes place by the action of hormone called cholecystokinin. I repeat again, cholecystokinin hormone targeting three part. It is acting on pancreas. As a result of that, what is happening here? Secretion of pancreatic enzyme, and it is acting on gallbladder, and it contracts the gallbladder that results in the release of the bile juice. The gallbladder is a thin muscular sac-like structure in which bile is stored and concentrated. When it is contracted, the bile is released. And next one, another one is the when bile is coming from the gallbladder. Okay, it has to the sphincter of Oddi has to be relaxed. Okay, that relaxation of sphincter of Oddi is also carried out by cholecystokinin hormone. Next one is villikinin. It is secreted by the intestinal villi, and it is as the name suggesting, it is acting on villi. It stimulates the movement of villi to increase absorption. It stimulates the movement of villi to increase absorption. Next hormone is enterocrine. Okay, this hormone is secreted by the duodenum. Here you learn 4 times duodenum. Okay, here duodenum, 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 duodenum. Here nearly 4 hormones are coming from duodenum, and and this hormone enterocrine acts on the intestinal glands, and it stimulates the release of succus entericus. There here no comma. Okay, succus entericus, also called as intestinal juice. Okay, this is the list of hormones and their place of secretion, what are secreted, what are secreting these hormones, and where are they acting, what is happening as a result of that. Okay, next, calorific of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. What are the calorific values of carbohydrate, proteins, and fat? It is very important. It was also asked in previous NEET exam. This topic, some part of this part is given only in state as well as NCERT. This part is given only in NCERT textbook. It is not given in the textbook, state textbook. The oxidation of 1 gram of proteins and carbohydrates. Oxidation of 1 gram of carbohydrates, this is carbohydrate, and 1 gram of proteins yields the same amount of energy, that is 4 kilocalories. What is that? 4 kilocalorie. Whereas oxidation of 1 gram of fat yields 9 kilocalories of energy. That means 1 gram of carbohydrate giving only 4, but 1 gram of fat giving 9. That means more than double. More than double. 4 plus 4, 8. Okay, it is 9. That means more than 1 gram of fat give you, okay, much more energy than 1 gram of carbohydrates. Okay, this is the what is physiological calorific value. Okay, the amount of heat generated when 1 gram of carbohydrate or proteins are oxidized in our body, that is called physiological calorific value. The amount of heat generated on the oxidation of 1 gram of carbohydrates or proteins or fat is physiological calorific value. The physiological calorific value 4, 4, and 9 respectively to the carbohydrate, proteins, and fat. And this gross calorific value or absolute calorific value, this is the amount of heat generated when 1 gram of carbohydrates is burnt in a bomb calorimeter. Okay, that is the gross calorific value or absolute calorific value. The absolute calorific value of carbohydrates is 4.1, but whereas physiological calorific value of carbohydrates is 4, and gross calorific value of carbohydrates is 5.65, whereas for proteins, okay, physiological calorific value is 4, and proteins gross calorific 5.65, and for fats 9.45 gross calorific value, and whereas physiological calorific value is 9. Okay, that's the end of this part. Okay, in the next video, okay, it is almost last video, I think. Okay, I will finish this digestion absorption, okay, with that next video. Okay, the make most from this video. Okay, you have to focus on your studies. Don't waste your studies on social networks in WhatsApp. Okay, focus on studies. You have got already your first year results are out. Okay, according to your result, you have to procrastinate, you have to introspect yourself, where you have done mistakes, you have to rectify them, and you have to come up with the flying colors in the next coming academic year exam results. I hope you will do that. Okay, until then, take care.